Hey guys, Mr. Price here with the next portion of your read aloud. Yesterday we read chapters from Jessica, Anna, and Jeffrey, and those chapters followed the events of the fire that happened when Luke mixed the plant feed together, and then they kind of transitioned to a recess scene with Jessica speaking with Danielle and learning a little bit more about Anna at the same time. And that chapter ended with a little bit of foreshadowing, um, where that line says, "Still, I had no clue about how bad things would really get," when she was confronted by Alexia for talking to Danielle. So we'll see what happens with that. That's definitely going to be a problem we need to pay attention to. So here we go, and we're beginning with a chapter from Alexia. I saw Jessica talking to Danielle. I saw them playing. That double-crossing, no good, Miss Perfect from California, she was going to get it. I went right up to her after recess, and I smacked her stupid book out of her hands. Who did she think she was, messing things up? I couldn't let her stand up to me and get away with it. Then somebody else might think they could do that too. I wasn't about to let that happen. Nobody messes with Alexia. Then I had to deal with Danielle. I caught up to her inside and followed her into the bathroom. I was like, "What are you doing?" She backed up to the stall. "Nothing. What's wrong?" I was like, "You're crazy to be friends with the new girl. I told you she's been saying nasty stuff about you. How you smell like the farm. And just now she said, 'Who's bigger, Danielle or the cows?'" Now Danielle was crying. Score. I hugged her. I was like, "We've been friends a long time, Danielle. Since second grade. We don't need her." She was still crying. I hugged her again. I was thinking, "That'll teach you to mess with me, Miss Perfect." I let go of Danielle and walked over and stood in front of the mirror. I fixed the scrunchie in my hair and readjusted my scarf. I reapplied some Princess Pink lip gloss. I was like, "Don't you worry, Danielle. We'll get her." And now we have a chapter from Danielle. I ended up talking and playing with Jessica at recess. My troubles with Lexi weren't her fault. I told Jessica about Anna. Jessica thought Anna seemed nice, which was true. Anna was my science partner for the plant unit, and I liked working with her. "You stay away from that girl, you hear me?" Grandma said when I first mentioned Anna at home. "Your grandmother's right, Danielle. That girl comes from a bad family," Mom said. "She'll be a bad influence." I wanted to know why, so Grandma filled me in on Anna's family story. I just listened, but I couldn't help thinking about the Anna I knew. She didn't seem bad at all. In fact, I already liked her. I wanted her to be my friend. I figured that as long as I wasn't going over to her house, I could be friends with Anna in school. Before long, it was time to head inside. I walked alongside Jessica until I saw Lexi marching toward us. She had a mean scowl on her face. She looked mad, real mad, like a mama cow determined to keep you away from her new calf. I rushed ahead. I didn't want to fight. I felt bad for leaving Jessica behind, but I wanted to avoid Lexi. I hurried inside and hid in the bathroom, but Lexi found me. The bathroom door flew open and she got right in my face. She told me all the mean things Jessica was saying about me. Like, you can even ask Katie or Emily. They'll tell you Little Miss California's a two-face. Nice to your face and mean behind it. You need to stay away from her. I started crying. Why would Jessica say those mean things? Lexi hugged me for a second, but it didn't make me feel any better. Then she walked toward the sinks. She stood in front of the mirror fixing herself. I sat in one of the stalls wiping my tears. "Like, you know what else?" Lexi said. "Jessica's the one who killed your plant. Like, she knocked it over on purpose. She told me." I've known Lexi since second grade, when she was all nice. She even came over to my house once that spring, but her feather boas weren't a good match for my farm, so she hasn't ever been back. And then in third grade, She started with her mean games, so I've never been to her house. We're friends in school when Lexi says so, and that's it. Grandma says something's going on with Lexi that we don't know about, and that it's best not to worry about being her friend. But I did worry. What was the truth? Was there anyone I could be friends with? Dear God, it's Danielle. I'm gonna need your help sorting all this girl stuff out. I hope you don't mind. I'd rather not get Grandma involved. She doesn't always understand. Thanks. Amen. And that brings us to November. And we're going to read a little bit of November as well. And we have a chapter from Luke. It was November. Apparently that meant time for Mr. Terupt to get crazy with his math ideas again. I think he was on a mission to put us through his math gauntlet. Dollar word. We're going to figure out the number of blades of grass in the soccer field, he announced one day. What? You're going to make us count grass? Peter yelled. That's nuts! No way! Nick was hollering. Dollar word. How are we supposed to do that? Tommy said. I raised my hand. Yes, Luke? You mean we're going to estimate the total number, right? Yes and no, Mr. Terupt said. We'll actually do some calculating to get a reasonable approximation. I was beginning to think that Peter might be right. Yes, it's going to be difficult, but I know we can do it, Mr. Terupt said. Besides, if everything we did here were easy, then you wouldn't learn anything. We need to be challenged in order to learn. Mr. Terupt was right about it being a challenge. None of us had any idea how we were going to count blades of grass. But we did. First, we decided we wanted to count 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter squares, which was my suggestion after Mr. Terupt talked to us about sampling and how our government gets population numbers. Then we measured the squares on a large piece of cardboard and cut them out. We were left with a piece of cardboard that had a 10 centimeter square, missing the middle. That was Mr. Terupt's suggestion. Now it would be easy to toss our piece of cardboard around the field and collect random 10 centimeter samples. So far so good. Time to head outside. We marched downstairs and out the front doors by the office. Then we stampeded down the sidewalk until the end of the building. The soccer field awaited us on the side of the school. This is a chapter from Peter. She was bent over counting blades of grass. It was the perfect opportunity. Mr. T was busy helping someone else, so he wasn't going to see me in action. I gripped the cardboard with my best hold, dipped my knees a little, and let the frisbee fly. It zinged through the air on its mission like a missile from a fighter jet. Bullseye! Ow! Lexi shrieked. My tushy! I almost died of laughter. I dropped to my knees. I laughed so hard. I couldn't stop. I couldn't catch my breath either. Lots of kids were laughing too. Lexi yelled something about her tushy and me being a jerk. Everyone that missed out on the fun kept asking, what happened? What happened? Except Mr. T. He came right over to make sure Lexi wasn't injured. Lexi was holding her tushy and hopping up and down, saying, ow, over and over. She's a total drama queen. Usually a teacher checks the spot that hurts, but I don't think Mr. T was real big on that this time. Peter, that's not funny, Mr. T said to me. Someone could have been injured. You're lucky you didn't hit anyone in the eye. Go sit down. I sat down. It was no big deal. If you'd been there, you'd agree. It was super funny. And the last chapter that we're going to hear is a little one from Luke. We spread out all over the place, tossing our cardboard squares and counting the blades of grass. Peter, however, was flinging his square like a frisbee, even though Mr. Terupt had warned us that it wasn't a toy and to be careful throwing it. Maybe if things had turned out differently that day, they would have turned out differently in the end, too. I think what happened on the soccer field just set us up for disaster later on. So Peter was being his typical sneaky self, flinging his square and counting here and there, but as soon as he spotted Alexia bent over her square, he wound up and sailed a beauty in her direction. It was a perfect delivery, dollar word, that tattooed, dollar word, her fanny. Ow! she screeched. Like, what the heck? What happened? Mr. Terupt instantly twisted, dollar word, around. Like, someone just hit me right in my tushy with their square, Alexia cried. The old buttocks again, huh? Mr. Terupt said. You okay? Yes, Alexia said. Mr. Terupt turned and looked out at us. We were laughing our heads off, and I swear I saw him smile as he shook his head at the whole scene. Peter, come over here, please, he said. Why me? Peter complained. Because we all know how much you like the buttocks area, don't we? Classic Mr. Terupt. Instead of blowing up, he was funny about it, but in a serious way. He sat Peter out for the rest of the activity and had a talk with him. Peter didn't pretend to be innocent, but like I said, I think this set us up for later. The whole thing seemed funny. No one got hurt. Peter sat out. That was it. Once we finished tossing and counting, we headed inside, where we learned how to average all our data. Then we took our average number and used it to predict the soccer field total by figuring out how many of our squares could fit inside the field. The number of blades of grass in our soccer field equals 77,537,412. This isn't an exact answer, of course, but it is an accurate estimate based on all our calculations. Phew! I learned so much doing that project. It wasn't the stupid, easy stuff I was used to getting from my teachers, that's for sure. We were math wizards. Dollar word. So that's where we're going to stop today with that grass counting activity. I hope you guys picked up on that bit of foreshadowing that Luke mentioned in that last chapter. You know, that this activity set them up for failure later on. Mr. Terupt's response to Peter's action set them up for failure later on. So we'll see what becomes of that and the evolving girl drama situation as we continue the story. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.